Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to the Royal Institute. Thank you for joining us here this morning. To get things underway for the Be Real campaign, please welcome the GM of bareMinerals, Andrew Rogers.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for coming to this inspiring venue on this much brighter Tuesday morning for the first ever bareMinerals and Be Real campaign panel event. bareMinerals' company mission is to make a positive difference in women's lives. And as one of the sponsors of the Be Real campaign, bareMinerals are dedicated to helping Be Real drive positive attitudes of body image, putting health above appearance and ensuring we all feel more confident about ourselves. We're thrilled to have this incredible and inspirational panel of women here with us today who cross a number of fields in their professions to provide us with some insight on their experiences of how body confidence has and continues to impact them and their industries today. I do have to add that we have the social handles you'll see above us on the screen here, so we're hoping we can encourage you to start sharing those, using those, and building a conversation around this very important issue. So enough talking from me. I'd like to hand over to our wonderful host for today, Suzanne Duckett, who's going to take us through the debate.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. I just want to let you know I've got really bad jet lag, so if I fall asleep or start waffling, just please tell me. I'm really happy because this is a conversation that we're all involved with. But I'd like to start by a confession, actually, a little bit of group therapy. I think, as a beauty director for many, many years, that I've been partly responsible for some of the really scary statistics that I've read about in a very interesting 80-page inquiry that's been conducted in the UK about how men and women, old and young, feel about how they look. So I'm going to make that confession. I think it's really important that the Be Real campaign look about what we're doing in our life and our professions, because we're more influential to our own pattern of thinking and to other people's than I think we realise. The world beauty industry, makeup, lipstick seems a bit fluffy to a lot of people, but I really think it's the perfect portal into people's psychology, into how we feel. And anyone that thinks buying a lipstick is just about putting a nice colour on their face is really naive and is missing a trick. It's more than just surface. We all know that. We all feel that. And confidence is a very complicated science, which is why this venue, a very serious place to talk about and analyse scientific studies, is really fitting for today. And the Be Real campaign is something I personally really wanted to get involved with because I left working as a beauty director on very big magazines, from Cosmopolitan to Good Housekeeping, so from 20-year-olds to 60-year-olds, because I really did feel that the way the industry has gone in the last 10, 15 years, if not longer, was perhaps crushing confidence rather than building confidence. And I personally only get involved with now panels, my blog, editorial, that I really believe, is there something in this article that I'm writing that I can take from that's going to build my confidence, not crush it? And importantly, is the reader that I'm writing for, is she going to or he going to feel better about themselves, more empowered to buy that product to maybe get them to the gym or feel more confident, or is this going to make them feel bad about themselves? And why? Because at the moment, 73% of adults in this United Kingdom, they agree that most of us, up to 73%, are suffering from confidence crisis. 71% agree that children in particular are under huge, unbearable pressure about the way they look, and their bullying is that their appearance is at the basis of the bullying that they're receiving. 1.6 million people in this country have got eating disorders. I don't know about you, but I don't want to contribute or add to figures. I want to bring them down, which is why the Be Real campaign for me is really, really important. And it's at the beginning. I also want to make that really clear. This is the early stages of this campaign. There's three parts of the campaign. This 80-page dossier, which anyone is able to download and get from, which we can pass on information at the end of the session. Really bring home these really scary statistics that we can make a positive improvement on. Real health, real education, and real diversity. We're not just talking about the beauty industry. peddling our wares. Actually, what we're talking about is the healthcare sectors, the fitness, diet and health businesses, promoting long-term healthy living, not quick fixes. Real education. We want parents involved. We want to set positive examples through schools and education and in the family and at home to be supporting this body confident campaign. And we also want to really, really celebrate the real diversity that we now have, calling businesses, advertisers, editors to particularly promote, better than we are doing, different body shapes, ages, ethnicities, disabilities and genders. So as Andrew said, it's so important that we don't just, when the lights go off and we all get on with our day and our week, we really do start hashtagging and tweeting and Instagramming to get this rolling. We also really want you to take part in the Q&A afterwards, so please don't be shy. This is about confidence, so put your hand up and ask some questions afterwards. So that's my truth and honesty about getting involved with this today. But my panellists here are the real reason that you're here. I've got some incredible people joining me. So I'm going to take it through, introduce, and then we can get on with the conversation. So from my right, we have Madeline Shaw, who is an influential blogger. We have Leslie Thomas, who is a respected beauty columnist and editor of the weekend section in The Times. Next to Leslie, we have Claire Park. Claire's a former model. She's a former dancer, and she's now an award-winning photographer. And then we have the lovely Leslie Blodgett. She is bareMinerals creator. She's a visionary, in my opinion. She's a wonderful entrepreneur, and she's the queen of community, I would say, which we'll get to a little bit later. Then we have the fantastic Steph Reed. Steph is a very talented, very inspiring sprinter and long jumper. She's a multi-Paralympian, a medalist and a really much needed mentor. And we have Elaine Slater to my near right, and she is an esteemed psychologist, a very talented psychologist, and works and has done many, many, many clinical hours with people that are suffering the kind of issues that we're talking about. So getting straight into it, welcome everyone. Water, tea, coffee, tissues here if anyone needs as well, so we're all sorted. But Elaine, we can talk about the media, and media I'm talking about from magazines, newspapers, advertising, editorial, Instagram, Twitter, because media now is so multi-functional. Are we to blame for this this confidence crisis that's going on around us? Do you think it is the media's fault?
Well, I think our body image has always been influenced by culture for centuries. It's been influenced by the society and the culture that we grow up in. But I think now we're completely bombarded and saturated, excuse me, completely bombarded and saturated by an idealized image of how we should look. So somehow individuality has been taken out of it and the aesthetic has narrowed in terms of the expectations of how we should look. And those expectations are around perfection and flawlessness.
And so in your clinical hours, when you're working with people that have from the eating disorders to, are they all to, you know, all other issues to do with that you'd go and see a psychologist about, but do you think it is true to say that they're picking up a magazine and they're saying, oh, I'm looking at these images and I feel, is it something as superficial as that?
Well, quite simply, it is as basic as that. I think that if someone starts off, because when you think about eating disorders or body image issues or self-harm issues, in a way, they're just symptoms. That's not to trivialize them, but they are symptoms of a much deeper issue going on around self-esteem, around self-value, self-worth, self-confidence, self-love. And often those things are really bedded in our younger years. But then if in adult life we're looking at various images that we are saturated by, that will only exacerbate our confidence issues and our insecurity issues. You know, we only need to pick up a magazine and look at an airbrushed, flawless and perfect image of a woman, and the woman in the picture doesn't even look like that, but yet there's an expectation that we should. So immediately, it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Immediately we're failing. We're told that we're not good enough because we can never be that. But the irony is the model isn't that either.
No, and I think one of the interesting statistics is if we were to really look at all the images that are out there, the reality of the person that looks most like that image that we keep seeing is about 5% of the population. So we're already on a very skewed statistic of what the media and the industry thinks we're aspiring to and what we actually aspire to, and that's too far apart. So, Leslie, going to you as a journalist, writing, for a national newspaper, so you have huge influence. One of the points that came out of the inquiry was a lot of people think that media really sensationalises the language around how we should look or what we should be doing. I mean, do you like me feel your responsibility on that? And how do you tackle that, the language side?
I do, and actually, kind of, I understand a lot of what Elaine is saying, but I actually think it's not so much the younger generation. It's actually women in their kind of 30s and 40s that I am concerned about, because we're the ones that are kind of training and teaching the younger generation about how to feel about themselves and their bodies. And I have to say, I hear more nonsense about body confidence and how do I look, and have I put on 3 pounds on holiday, and should I have really dried my hair this morning, from older women than I do from kids. And I think actually the kind of teenage girls now, I mean, I think what's great, a positive thing about what we're seeing in the media is that they're very, very aware about airbrushing, Photoshop. They're very much aware that no picture that they see in a magazine is a representation of what anybody looks like, which actually our generation, women in my 40s, we had no clue about that. We used to look at magazines and think, oh, I'll try and maybe I should do a few more sit-ups or lose weight or try and look like that. But I actually think younger girls now are much more savvy, and I think it's our responsibility not to pass on our issues, the kind of older women's issues. And
you have a really good. I hope you don't mind sharing this.
That's all right.
You've got 2 daughters,
yes.
And there was an Instagram moment, wasn't there, with a crop top with one of your daughters?
Yes.
Can you share that with us? Because I think also the way you handle it, with the not just being about how you look when you're mentoring as a parent.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I think with young girls, a lot of people worry about social media, and my view is that actually who they are on social media is just who they are. So young girls or teenage girls don't suddenly become another person because they've got an Instagram account. But actually, if there are little kind of trends there. So it may be that one day they might be putting up pictures that they've drawn. Another day, they're taking a picture of themselves in a new top. And I saw a picture of my daughter, and she was just in a new top. She kind of cropped her face off and this bit of her body. And I saw something that I should be worrying about, that she's kind of showing her body. But that was actually my perception of it, not hers. She was just saying, here's my new T-shirt. What I saw was a young girl showing a picture of her body.
Yes.
We had a conversation about it, but actually, I think we shouldn't be teaching our children to look at themselves through the eyes of other people. She's just putting up what happened that day.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Claire, I wanted to ask you as well. You're the mother of sons, because we're not just talking about girls having this confidence crisis. It's affecting the boys as well. And one of the numbers that really sort of freaked me out, to be honest, was that 1/3 of men would sacrifice a year of their life for a perfect body. And there are teenage boys, as we sit here today, risking liver disease because they're taking too many steroids or other things to give them pecs. Now, how does that make you feel as a mother to boys? How can you mentor your boys to have good body confidence?
Well, what I actually wanted to say, going back to you, was that in a way our bodies are becoming very public properties.
Yeah.
And the body is being so objectified that actually the body is not becoming something that produces things. It's very much to do with just being an object. And of course, the men are now being subject to the beauty industry too, with a lot of products and more magazines.
Do your boys get affected? Do you see them being affected with that pressure?
To a certain extent, I have noticed it. Perhaps, I mean, my sons are 20, 25. The nature of their work is determining that to a certain degree with one of them as a performer. The younger one is studying sports science, so obviously body nutrition, body image is part of what he's studying. So my children are aware of it, and also because I rabbit on about all of the things that I want to say today,
Yes.
which are lots and lots
Yeah.
and lots. They can hear me talking about it because it's the subject that I'm involved in. So a lot of the time, you know, they can't bear hearing it, but maybe it's seeped into them too, because you know, they do hear about what
Sure.
I'm talking about. It's very difficult to generalize, I think. But certainly, I think there's more, obviously, disordered eating with men. In fact, when I went to the gym recently, I generally go there, but just to observe people's bodies and how they're
You don't
behaving.
look like a stalker, though, do you, Claire? Are you actually pretending to work out, or are you just sitting in the corner?
I do a lot of lying down on the mat.
Stretching.
Yeah.
Stretching.
I
That's
do
the best
lots
bit
of
about
stretching.
gym. Stretching, yeah.
I never, ever sweat.
Yeah.
I should do. There's a lot of strutting, lots of phones. There's the whole photograph, you know, selfie thing. There's the presentation of the body, which is very important. So I find I can see that there's a lot of emphasis on looking externally good. Internally, obviously, it's a very different story. So why do they have to be like that? If they're doing sport, obviously it's good, but there's a huge amount of protein powders being consumed.
Yes.
I mean, huge.
Yes.
And when I went to visit my son at the house that he's living in, uni, I opened this cupboard, and I'm not joking, the whole cupboard
Yes.
was full of the stuff.
Yes.
And we have had battles just discussing it.
Yes. So that's
and it's worrying.
So that sort of
Yeah.
the woman's cellulite
But
cream
it's a given.
is the boy's
Yeah.
protein powder, which is
No, but it's also the
yeah.
girls.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the girls in the gym, I said, do you take these? They went, well, yes.
Yeah.
It's not that bad.
Yeah, but I think a little bit like how a woman, if she thinks if she's got a cellulite cream in her cupboard, never actually uses it because she can't be bothered, frankly. She's got too many other things to do. I mean, who's ever really finished a bottle of body toning cream? I mean, really. But it's a bit like the boy. If I've got my powder, then I'm going to wake up with pecs. Oh, you have? Have you, Leslie? Have you really? Oh, oh no. But Steph, I'd like to ask you now. I mean, from someone who, let's face it, lost her leg in a boating accident at 16 years old, probably the most tender age that you can imagine something like that happening. Does this not sound a bit trite to you? People worried about their fuzzy hair or their wobbly bottom. I mean, what you've had to overcome, does this sound trite?
No, not at all. I think, it all stems from the same root cause. I was 60 when I lost my leg, and I remember lying in hospital. And, well-meaning friends had sent cards and magazines, and there was the Cosmo included in that. And I remember just looking at it and just kind of this realization, you know what, I'm never going to look like any of these people. Gosh, I don't even have all my limbs, let alone, the perfect hair, the perfect skin. And in some ways, I'm incredibly thankful for that moment, because that was the moment, for all intents and purposes, I kind of checked out of the media world, because everything about my life at that moment told me I was going to be unhappy, unsatisfied, unsuccessful. But I didn't feel like that. I was still really happy. I was, yes, disappointed at the loss of my leg, but incredibly thankful to still be alive, and incredibly thankful for what I did have left, and absolutely determined to make the most of it.
Yeah.
And
which I did think about you a lot when I was surfing on this recent trip, when I couldn't get up on the surfboard. It's like, no, because Steph was saying, come on, use your body as this amazing thing, rather than going, oh, you can't do it. But can you tell us about Nurse Claudette? Because you told me a really heartwarming story, but actually quite a tough love story.
Mm-hmm. When the accident initially happened, just to give you some background, I was a rugby player. I wanted to play professionally. That was my life dream. And then obviously, you lose part of your leg and you can't run anymore, and you just think, what am I going to do? And I was devastated. I was miserable, didn't want to have visitors.
Don't blame you, can I just say that? He always says it as if it's so good. Yeah.
I was just really angry and really frustrated. And about a week after the accident, I had a nurse that came in, Nurse Claudette, and she had brought breakfast. And she walked in, and I just said, I just really don't feel like eating today. And she said, that's fine. Why don't you get up, and I'll help you, wash your hair and just and get a shower. And I just didn't care. I just didn't want to do anything. And I just said, I just don't feel like it. And the next thing I knew, she slammed the breakfast tray down on my bed and looked me in the eye and just said, Stephanie, that's enough. I don't care what you feel like. You have got to get up. You've got to get moving. You've got to stop being so miserable. And I was absolutely shocked.
She sounds quite a scary nurse, can I just say?
She wasn't scary, but it was just, she was a first person that walked in and actually expected something more from me than moping. She was the first person to challenge me, and that felt really good. And again, just going back to the issue and speaking about the media, I think the way I've always seen it is yes, the media has contributed in a huge way to the current state that we're in, but I refuse to be a victim. I don't know that, having this panel, doing all this, I don't know we're actually going to change the media, but I know that what I can change is myself.
Yeah.
And I'm never going to give someone else the power to control, what I think and how I act and to set my standards.
Yes.
I think, the one thing that I can control is my mind. And, I even think back to my upbringing. I had two wonderful parents, and including a father who owned a pub and refused to hire a man to do the cleaning because he felt women could do it better. But that was also the same man who made sure that I had an excellent education, and I can look at that situation and I can critically analyze it, and I know that that's ridiculous. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And to me, that is what we need to get out there, just empowering women to set their own standards, set their own goals.
And you call it strategic thinking, don't you? I think that's what you phrased it to me, which was actually
critical thinking skills.
Yeah.
That's what education. To me, that is just the most important thing, the most important gift that you can give a young person.
Because also, if we're cherry picking, because that's, flip it now, media can be fantastic for ideas. Leslie, we were talking about the language that you use is more, it's not how you're supposed to look like this, but it's, hey, do you fancy doing this for that party? Or do you fancy doing this with your hair? Or, we can transform and put on a different, if we're all the world's a stage, we want to be a different actor that day, we want to go out channeling this part of your personality. That doesn't mean we're not being true to ourselves. It just means for that particular day or that particular event, you want to just feel a bit different. So
I think there's a difference between being told how you ought to look or how you can make yourself look better than try this, experiment with this. I mean, we use our clothes and our makeup and our hair as a way of expressing ourselves. That's part of being female. It probably happens more, men do it as well, but it probably happens more with women, but we should enjoy it. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And I think body confidence shouldn't be the only source of our confidence. And I actually think body confidence shouldn't just be about, oh, we're looking thin or trim or good in that dress. It's about just feeling, for me, it's just about feeling strong.
Absolutely.
And fit and healthy. But I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, try this lipstick, try this makeup, or try this product, because it's just experimenting and expressing yourself and just stepping out and showing people how you want to look that day.
Yes, and so taking from a combination of what then Steph's talking about, this sort of critical thinking of looking at something, we should be starting to empower women. Leslie, would you agree? And I talk about the Queen of Community because and I'd like you to tell everyone a little bit about how you've managed to leverage such an incredible force of femaleness on your community, on digital. Because as a beauty company, we're talking body confidence. So how do you think body confidence links with foundation and mascara and lipstick?
Well, the beauty industry is in the billions of dollars. So obviously, and it's growing every year. So people love beauty products and they buy them. But since the beginning of time, I was doing some research, and one of the biggest hair care companies in the industry right now, in the 40s, their ads said, pitied, unpopular, wallflower, well, then you need our hair dye. So this is how the industry works. They make you feel bad, they shame you. And it still kind of does that. I mean, now you can read ads and it measures the wrinkle size. Do you want do you want your wrinkles to be less deep? I mean, it kills me.
I mean, Leslie, do you see any other companies, again, we don't need to mention names, I mean, if you can, I'm happy for you to throw them out there and name and shame them, but are there strategies for training consultants to say certain things in a certain way?
Oh my gosh.
Do you know of any that you can?
One of the things that I do a lot is I visit stores, and I did that while I've been here for the last 2 days in the cosmetic department. And here in this country, we have 700 beauty ambassadors working in the stores. They have to be role models they have to have confidence or at least help share that. So that's part of our training, is to make sure the people that are joining our company can understand what we're about. It's about who are you? And then let's help others. But I was walking around talking to some of these other counters, and boy, they were giving me, I'm in my 50s, and they wanted me to feel like I don't have to look like I'm in my 50s. I'm proud. I just had a birthday on Saturday. I'm 53, yay.
Ooh, happy
but
birthday.
this is the deal. I mean, when we have our images in advertising. We do what we call responsible retouching. So we don't change features, we don't change lines. Like if she has one hair sticking here, we'll take out that hair. I mean, that's what we mean by responsible. But we want to be sure that, and we don't add lashes for a mascara ad. We don't add fake eyelashes. But I do have young people working for us who tell me that they will not leave the house without false lashes on because that's what they think they need to look like. So there is still a battle, even with young people and middle-aged women. We have to continue to educate. Who are you? And let's talk about your health and wellness.
But some of that, because we're all very good at these headlines and even conversationally. But one of the other stats was 1 in 6 women are avoiding parties and social situations because of how they look. Now, that's not great. We think about that as, oh, that's not ideal, you're going to miss a good party. But if that accelerates and builds, what we're finding in schools is these girls also don't want to put their hands up and answer a maths question or a science question or a French question or whatever it is. So our impact on the workforce for females in 20 years, 10, 15 years, that's quite a big issue. And that's why the government are getting involved in the campaign. So how do you were, when you were younger, you were one of those 1 in 6, weren't you, that ducked out of parties. So how have you gone from being that shy girl to female entrepreneur extraordinaire?
I still have social anxiety. I'm still an introvert. I battle this every day. People ask me where I live, and I think I live in my head more than I live anywhere else.
Yeah.
And it's struggling. And I hear you talk, and you are inspiring to me because you're not going to let anyone tell you who you're going to be. But I still need to hear those things. So it doesn't always go away. So it's just each morning waking up we've talked about this, with gratitude. I'm just happy to be here. What can I do? How can I offer? What's my purpose? How can I help others?
And did you get that information, Leslie? Did you go to a guru or
No.
Buddhist or a psychologist or a parent or who are these gurus? Where did that, because not everyone can just get over that shyness.
To your original question that I didn't even answer. In the 90s, when I was just starting this company, I reached out online in the late 90s, early 2000s, before there was Facebook and social media, and I was talking to women who were just like me. So I found out that, sure, we love beauty products and we want to improve and emphasize our features, but it's really just getting to know people. And the more people I know that have the same issues that I do, it's empathy. So the community was built, our brand was built around getting other women's feedback and input. And I think it's just constantly being connected to other people and sharing and getting to know them. It's not superficial anymore.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Absolutely. And the numbers prove it, don't they? They really prove it. So, and Madeline, coming over to you now, talking community and socially connected, you could be seen as that one of those 5%ers that look the way the media is portraying a lot of us to look. So a lot of people could actually be a bit turned off by Madeline Shaw's life because Madeline Shaw looks amazing. She's happy, she's positive, she's vibrant, she's into her mentoring of wellness. You are self-taught primarily, but you're also doing other qualifications to really improve your qualification skill set, am I right in thinking? But you've got tens of thousands. 160? How many followers do you have on Instagram now?
170.
Yeah, so how did you get 170,000 followers? By looking the way that apparently, according to the figures, people are a little bit turned off by being shown images. Where do you think it's come from? You've really put that on its head, haven't you? Literally, with your yoga.
Well, I think I've always been really conscious never to talk about weight. You will never find an article I've written or a post. I never say, it's about weight, it's about being skinny. I never ever talk about it because I think we hear about it so much from other sources. I I don't know. I think I've always been taught by my mum to focus on what's good about yourself. And I try and like promote that through everything I do. So through anything I write in a very conversational, chatty tone, which I think makes people feel comfortable. I'll teach people things like about self-love, about gratitude, and they're just things that I've kind of learned along the way through my own journey. But I don't know, it's been an organic thing. I think because I really believe in it. I think because I am promoting a good message and I'm trying to start a different revolution of being body confident in my own way.
But I still find it amazing that to be, you know, relatively unknown.
Yeah.
And you're also affiliated a bit with one of the reality TV shows, weren't you? Which again, the inquiry shows that reality TV, Instagram, social media are making people feel bad about themselves, but yet not in your case, because you're not talking about diets, you're not talking about weight loss, you're not talking about skinny.
Yeah.
But you've got this. Do you think there's any particular event or something that has just triggered that sort of stone to roll and gather?
I think, although people are lacking confidence, I think there is a new movement, and I think from my perspective, like growing up, it was all about looking like Kate Moss, like kind of rugged, like bags under your eyes, really skinny. And I think there's a change. Like I think people are wanting to look more strong. People are exercising, which making them feel good and strong and confident within themselves. So I do think that social media, although it can be a negative thing, and it can be very much about ab selfies and all these sorts of things, it can also be like a really nice way to share with people, to chat with people. And I'm really conscious to like answer everyone who asks questions of me. Like if people have a particular topic they're asking, like I'll address it. So I think that there is power in social media in a good way.
So it's this force
that
of
can
good.
create a community.
This positivity. Do you think then, and Claire, I'll ask you this, that there is a bit of a beauty paradox, isn't there? Because on one hand, we've got beauty companies selling products, be it positively or negatively, whichever sales tactic they choose, but they're selling products, and we're writing about products, and women want to know, and men want to know about products. But they're solutions to things, so you're immediately saying, well, there's a negative, so it needs to be fixed. And then there are these unrealistic ideals in the imagery. So is there sort of a mantra or how do we bridge them between people being inspired and wanting products and the fun part of beauty and the inspiring to this really keeping it real and keeping it so that people aren't being made to feel bad? Do you think there is a little magic mantra, or do you think that, again, it's not generalising, it all depends on what it is
Everything
in
you
front of
say, now I'm going back to you as well. What I wanted to say was, in a way, what you're talking about is symbolising your experience. That's what comes out. Like for you, we're inspired by your experience, and you're projecting that very well. It's a minefield out there, and we all have to sort of take responsibility for being individuals and actually understanding that body confidence is not static. And actually, you know, like talking here right now, I feel a bit disconnected. I'm not in my comfort zone. My mind is sort of not quite with my body. I feel slightly out of my body.
You wouldn't know
Slight
that.
anxiety. Want to say lots of things. Not sure I'm going to be able to say them all. You know, education, my experiences, you're listening properly. And in a way, I think we all know, you know, you just go and fill up your car and you go and pay, and the magazines are all there, you know, massive contradictions, you know, slamming celebrity, and on the other hand, applauding, you know, as you say, it's just full of paradoxes,
yes.
one way and another, and we all know it because we can all see it, but actually we don't all feel
Yes,
it.
yes.
And we're all adults, you know, we're all adults in this room, and so talking about change really has to go back to education, having a much more integrated way of educating children within all subjects. But again, then you go back, there's not enough money for all of these things. So, and also a lot of teachers will have lots of body confidence issues themselves. So how are we actually going to start earlier And what I feel is that it needs to be in geography, politically, socially, within history, the history of the body.
So it's this continuum. So if we could
Yes,
sort of
and
maybe
actually
think of a
getting
word,
young
it's a
people to
continuum
be
working
in
through.
their body.
Yes.
And actually understanding where makeup comes into the body, as you say, it can be, you know, it's fun, it's lovely, we all like clothes. We know that the body confidence is not static, so, you know, wake up in the morning, you know, feel awful, try and pull yourself together for various strategies, and then, you know, go
Everyone's
out.
a photographer now, aren't they, really, with
Everybody's
Instagram
a
and
photographer
iPhones?
too, yes.
But do you look at Instagram feeds and do you look at, is there anything in common? Because people don't tend to put not so good pictures of themselves on Instagram, do they?
Well, everybody wants to present themselves well, and I'm a people photographer, portrait photographer, and, you know, when you're doing a portrait, I work with this Susie Orbach, who wrote Fat as a Feminist Issue. I've worked with her, working with young actors on image and identity, and actually making them understanding the world that they're about to enter. And being photographed, having your portrait taken, you have to use your body. So you've got to be in your body and be confident within your body for it to come out of your face. But I also work in areas which are not so commonplace. Self-portraiture,
This is
early
what
on.
Instagram is, though, isn't it, really?
Well, it is, but that's to do with making yourself... It's not storytelling. It's very, very bland.
Yes,
It's just to do with the surface. When I was at the Royal College of Art, coming up to my degree show, and my work was quite derivative then, having come out of the fashion world. I was sort of doing portraits a bit like David Bailey. One amazing piece of a comment that the head of photography said to me was, "Don't overlook yourself." And I really had to think carefully about what he meant, and it actually applies to what we're talking about today, is don't look beyond, but actually be aware of who you are and what you've done. And for me, that made me begin a series of pictures about my life as a dancer.
And I totally agree. And Steph wanted to bring you in on that point as well, because there was something that you said that resonated with me about that within the media, and actually our opinions, is that there's two things. It's either how you look, so people can buy into that, or, it's all about what's on the inside. It doesn't really matter how you look. And you don't agree with either of those, do you?
I don't. Actually, I think Claire really hit it on the head when she said people need to learn how to exist within their own bodies. As you say, you know, growing up as a teenager, you know, obviously you're given this mindset that all that matters about you is, you know, you need to fit this image that less than 5% of people fit, but equally unhelpful. I found after the accident, a lot of people felt the need to come up to me and reassure me and say, you know what, Stephanie, it's okay. All that really matters is what you're like on the inside.
That patronise you a little bit?
It was, the reality, it's just, it wasn't true, because the reality is that, you know, we are our bodies. We're not these kind of ethereal spirits that just kind of, you know, float through the world. Like, my body is where I live. It's the only one that I have. And for me, it's really important that I take care of it. And I think a lot of the issues with body confidence come when how you feel on the inside doesn't match the outside. I think that is the stem of the problem. And, you know, I remember probably one of the first legs that I had made 8 months after the accident was a 3-inch high heel leg, because it was important to me that I could march down for my high school graduation in a pair of heels. And that was just something that I wanted to do. And so, you know, as you said at the beginning, a red lipstick is not just a red lipstick. You know, as women, we're already going to be in an incredibly difficult situation. And, you know, I think the reality is we were designed to appreciate beauty. You know, it's not a bad thing, it's not a negative thing. But if you can take away one of those hurdles and find a way to help you feel more confident, to help you stick your hand up in class, then again, that is a really good thing. I mean, I've just been watching the World Athletics Championships in Beijing. I don't know if anyone else is watching it. And Daphne Skippers set an amazing new 200-meter world lead. And the first question she gets asked from reporters coming off is, oh gosh, you have a lot of acne scars. Have you been using steroids?
Oh dear.
No, literally the first question.
Wow.
And you just think, gosh, this is the world that we're in. It's so difficult to be female. It's not enough for her to go out and do an amazing performance. Apparently, she needs to have flawless skin as well.
Yeah, totally. Which I think brings on, Elaine, you know, you've mentioned in the past a number of times.
Sorry, I was reeling from the horror of that.
With this sort of pursuit of perfection, that's bull, isn't it? I wish I had a beeper. But that, are we also as women, do you think culture we've always put? And I know I don't want to just talk about women today, I mean, primarily because of the nature of this morning, the audience, but this perfection of thing,
it doesn't exist.
So why we're chasing it though? And so how do you view that, and how do you mentor clients?
Well, actually, can I just pick up on something that both Claire and Steph have brought in around, Claire was talking about being in your body, and I think what I'm noticing a lot is embodiment issues, the struggle to actually be housed and bedded into our body. I think a lot of people, particularly people I see who live in a big city, live a very urban existence, they live from the neck up. They're very much in their heads. So they're with the mental aspect of who they are. And it's almost as if the body becomes an object. It becomes a vehicle to get from A to B. And then we feel almost as if the body is infinitely modifiable, so we can go and have plastic surgery, or we can go on this radical diet, or we can do this or do that to ourselves, because it's almost like it's not part of us, part of our being. So there's something around, I think, in terms of building the confidence of women to really support them in integrating mind, body and spirit, so the body isn't.
I'm just going to say, so that we're now getting into this lovely blurry industry, or not even industry is the wrong word, blurry realm of spirituality. So, and when the beauty industry normally demonstrates spirituality, it's some really annoying model in a perfume ad, doing the most irritating face with the most irritating male model in a most irritating fake scenario. So do you think maybe that's getting really scraping down under the surface? Do you think our lack of spirituality in the, we're talking about the UK stats, figures, media, do you think the spirituality is what the movement is being forced by now from the obsession? And I think the tipping point is something we need to become quite obsessional about something before it then settles down and becomes a norm, but with yoga, with meditating, with going to see a psychologist. Do you think that, when people are trying to buy a soul in their moisturiser, or they're trying to buy spirit in their body cream?
So in a way, yes, so you're talking in a way about projective identification, so we kind of project into the cream or whatever it might be, our identity. So I think there's something about reclaiming our sense of self so that we can then internalize who we are. And I think this speaks to some of what Leslie was talking about around working on ourselves and creating positive mirrors around us. So, a group of very supportive, like-minded women. So it's about the mirrors in society that we actually seek out, who reflect back who we are, so we can actually internalize that as opposed to externalize it and find it somewhere else in the environment.
Which perhaps the media is not doing terribly well at the moment. And it's very, very difficult, though, because Steph, going back to what, and Leslie, I want to also bring both of you into this question. If we do want to bring this spirit, the real spirit of how we feel about ourselves, into the public eye, we have to be really careful we don't get too tokenistic about it, don't we? Because there's nothing worse than seeing a campaign or something that it's quite obvious that person's been brought in because they're black, that person's been brought in because they're disabled, Steph, what would be your reality check on people really genuinely seeing you for being you and looking at your achievements rather than the accident? Is there anything, I think we talked about climbing mountains, getting out into nature, so that you can get over any, what you might call a hindrance, because you've turned it into a really positive part of your life. I think you called your leg a fashion accessory, which I thought was brilliant. So how can we as the media do that better?
I think probably the best thing that you can do is just ensure that you are presenting a realistic picture. I think, as you said, Stephanie, you're my inspiration, you're so confident. Again, you're seeing, I wake up in the morning, I have really bad mornings as well, where I have to recheck, and I think it's really important that side of the story is always told.
The vulnerabilities.
Exactly. I don't ever want to be a person that's constantly posting, all these pictures of healthy meals when, there is the occasion where I'm having, Fruit Loops and a glass of wine.
Yeah.
You have to make sure that you are showing...
Yes, please do, yes.
You've got to make sure that, you're showing both the good with the bad, and we have such a tendency to edit our lives and just want to project...
the highlight reel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
the
it's
highlight
called
reel.
Photoshop life now. In America, the millennials are calling it the Photoshop life, where your whole life needs to be Photoshopped. You know, your house, your clothes, your makeup, your food, your everything.
Exactly.
So showing the vulnerabilities.
Yeah, it's about, you know, being confident enough to be honest about your flaws and saying, you know what, I'm not that I'm proud of these, but this is where I'm at right now,
Yes.
and that's okay. And I think, yes, the media just really needs to present a balanced view.
Sure. So
it's also about
not
taking the physical appearance so seriously.
Yes.
I mean, even, you know, I'm sorry, but even in some of this conversation, it feels like we're taking beauty a little bit too seriously. It's one aspect of who we are. We are physical beings, but you've talked about our kind of spiritual being. We're intellectuals. Our bodies can do 1,000 things apart from looking nice. So that's just one aspect of who we are. I think actually sometimes even in this conversation, we're taking it a little bit too seriously.
well, we are, but then there are these figures to show that these things that we are writing about and portraying are having a very serious effect on kids.
Sorry, that's my point. I think we should be saying this isn't yes, it's great that you can look fantastic, but it's not the be all and end all.
Yeah.
It's just one small aspect of who you are. There's nothing wrong with presenting yourself well, but there's many more things to you as a female. And I think girls don't get told that enough. Boys are never really told that this is, you know, your physical appearance is who you are. I know you were saying this is kind of changing a bit now, but traditionally, girls and women are maybe being told that it's very important that we discuss how important, discuss body confidence and how our confidence comes from our physical beings. But I think it shouldn't in the first place. I think we should not care about it so much, you know. It's something we do for fun.
I wonder if the elders, i.e. the grandparents in society, which is a whole nother subject that get overlooked, you know, and just come back from Indonesia and the sort of body confidence there was through the roof. I mean, you know, it's not even, it's like saying, I'm going to have fresh food today. It's kind of, well, of course you're not going to have unfresh food. It's just a given that they're confident and they're very much in their bodies. And it becomes the grandparent role of, oh, don't be so full of yourself, or, you know, get over yourself. So do you think that's...
I think we do need to get over ourselves a little bit. Yeah. And I think we should just care a little bit less.
Yes.
We seem to be so lodged into the jargon of it all. And then at the same time, you know, we're living in a world that's profoundly difficult, like we were just talking about. You know, I'm going to be 60 soon, and sometimes I think, oh God, you know, all those issues start coming into play. But then on the other hand, you know, I'm really pleased that I'm alive, that I've got, you know, a great family, and you know, lucky to be here. I haven't actually lived through a war. I haven't had to fight. You know, there's lots of reasons for things to be very good. But on the other hand, you know, look at the state of the world that we're living in. You know, we've got to find some sort of balance here.
Sure. And do you think, Leslie, before we open up and start asking for some lovely questions, is it about community then as well, whether it's digital or whether it's, you know, in the flesh? Do you think coming and doing a yoga class together, it's this meeting of spirit, mind, body, soul, and that really, instead of just talking about it, we've got to start integrating that more into, I don't know, if you go and buy lipstick, maybe you go and get a 10-minute yoga class, or, you know, is it dovetailing in the physical of what we're talking about?
I'll tell you that with the community, I'm in the beauty business, so it's really, for us, we are selling products that affect your appearance. So if there were no lights on ever, we wouldn't be selling any products, because it is the way you look in the mirror. But we used real people in everything. Real people, meaning me and everyone else, in all of our advertising. Then we decided to use professional models, actresses, but I felt horrible that all of a sudden we're looking at books to pick a person's face when we were using real people. So we did something crazy. We actually did a blind casting where we interviewed women, never saw who they were, and we chose 5 women based on their personality. And then we just hoped that... we just heard them. They were in another room. They came to a go-see. They came to a model. You know, they were actresses, because we wanted professionals in front of the camera who knew what to do, but we did not know at all what they looked like. And they were going to be, they signed a contract for their faces close up in an ad campaign, and we never saw what they looked like. Wow. And we did it because we love people, and we wanted someone we wanted to hang out with.
So did that work? That worked out
And
quite
then
well for you, didn't it?
the reason I was nervous for many reasons. One of them, what if they all looked the same? What if they were all, we interviewed people from 18 to 60. We got a diverse group based on people we want to hang out with. That's how we looked at it. So I think that we felt good about that. We went to sleep waking up in the morning, wow, this is unique, and we were able to share that with our employees and our customers too. So that's our way of being authentic too.
So you went back on this gut feeling.
This
is what this.
And
the spirit,
it's
the
our
critical
responsibility
thinker,
as a
the
beauty
taking
company
taking it in your own hands.
to our community. Yes, it's our responsibility.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, we could talk for hours, and I'm sure we will. But I'd love to open it up to the floor. Ah, fantastic! We've got some hands going up already. I'm going to ask this lady here, third row back. I do know her. Hello, Beatrice.
Hi, thanks. That was so interesting. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Leslie, you touched on this about shame at the counter, and then there's also Stephanie, your athlete, asked about her acne scars, and I think.
Yes. Beatrice, can I just ask you to say what you do for a living, or something about yourself
sure.
as
I'm
well?
a
Because this is all
freelance
about so just Beatrice is a journalist. Okay, thanks. It's good for people to know.
And I think shame seems to be a real issue for women. It's very Brené Brown. I don't know if anyone knows her, but and the vernacular sort of changed. Like, I think people recognise these terms. She flaunts her long legs. She bravely goes out makeup free, and of course there's the flashes her side boob, which all comes from a certain website. So how do we go from shame to confidence, and how do we make that leap?
That's the questions to you. Was that to Leslie?
Yeah. How do we make that leap? I know everything that I have done comes from inside of me and talking to other women. And I think we make that leap, and everyone has said this on this panel, by feeling strong inside. For me, it's physical fitness and eating well. So I need to begin with feeling physically in shape and healthy, and then I can take on the world. So I think, and I know Brené Brown, I listened to her talk about that, and I think the content we take in, what we read about, you have to put limits on who you're going to listen. The Kardashians, I have a rule. I don't listen to anything any Kardashian says.
Who?
Yeah.
Who are we talking about?
If there's on Twitter, forget it. So I basically decide what I'm letting in, including food and fitness, and what I'm going to, that will help me in what I project.
Okay,
out.
so jump out your head into the body via exercise
I
and good eating.
I determine my life. I determine what I will allow inside me.
Yeah, and just because that's a great question, Beatrice, and I wanted to just ask you, Steph, on that point. You talked a little bit to me, which was when I was on that surfboard away. I'm going to get on this surfboard, and I did because of that. But does something happen, do you think, to us when you're in that sporting zone, whether you're a world-class athlete or you are that slightly out-of-shape mum going for a jog along the riverbank? Because there's been some really interesting studies, isn't there, on the, I think, is it called the super god? This zone you go into when you're exercising?
I like this.
The tennis player, the God Zone, Federer. Did you ever read that study that he did?
No, I haven't actually, but I do know what you mean
Yes.
about you kind of hit this zone where you're in perfect flow. I have always been a huge advocate for sports for women of all ages, from recreational up to elite. I think that there is a very, very important change that happens in your mind where you don't just view, you stop looking at your body as, your body's no longer something just to be viewed. It's this thing that you can do these amazing things with. And for me, that was a huge shift. I was hugely embarrassed about my artificial leg, and I thought that the way to be, successful as an amputee was to fool everybody into thinking that I wasn't one. And so, I learned to walk really well. But then I started running, and I realized that there was no hiding it. And the more I ran, again, this transformation happened where I wasn't embarrassed anymore about my artificial leg. I thought it was amazing, and I purposely ordered a hot pink one so everybody else would see it as well. And I think, one of the best pieces of advice I got growing up was just, beauty is a gift. It's not a talent. Yeah. It's not a talent. And, speaking about the vernacular, if there's one thing that I could eliminate from the consciousness of the world, it would be the term thigh gap.
Yes.
I hate it. And I've always thought, gosh, if there was one piece of advice I could give to any young female, it would just be, worry more about your 1 rep max squat and less about your thigh gap.
Burn the Barbie. Burn the Barbie. Do we have another question? Just because you're so near, Kirsty, the lady at the end there. What's your name?
I'm Amy and I work for Women's Health, so I work quite closely with all of this. Everyone always talks about people who inspire them, but for this campaign I feel it's very much about being real and about saying who isn't inspiring me anymore. And I'm sure on social media we've all kind of hit unfollow recently. Content that you're taking in isn't actually good for your life anymore. So I suppose I'm kind of asking you guys, who have you this year decided that isn't a good influence?
Let's start. Okay, this is a quick fire round, Madeline.
I actually recently took like a 2-week social media break. I cut off email, Instagram, and for other people that might not be a big deal, but that is pretty much my job and my life. I had so much more time in the day. I felt a lot less anxious because I think, like we've said, people are posting their holidays, their best moments. So I think I just follow something that I find interesting, something that I'll learn from. So I follow lots of chefs who I think have put really good combinations together, but I've never been a big celebrity follower, so I don't kind of follow those things. But anything that does make me feel negative about myself, you can switch that off, and I think it's good and empowering. And also to set limits on yourself with it, not to be going to bed scrolling through it or starting the morning scrolling through it. So, because it's a habit that you can come into, and we live in Instagram or social media world rather than our own. So I think, setting limits on yourself and then, just filtering who picks you up.
I think Gwyneth Paltrow unfollowed me recently when she saw me surfing. Anyway, Leslie, so who have you unfollowed?
I don't follow celebrities unless it's for 1 week for work or something.
Yes.
But I don't follow anyone for inspiration.
No.
It's just, but I think like you, Madeline, occasionally I get a bit carried. I've realised I've looked at too much Twitter, Instagram, Facebook that day. Actually, and I think sometimes Facebook is the worst because it's your own friends. It's not just general media. Actually,
it's too weird,
you want to just switch them all off. So every now and again, if there's one break that I do take, it's from Facebook. Every now and again, I don't want to see anyone's holidays.
The digital
anymore.
detox is here.
Yes.
Claire, is there anyone that
I
don't see
follow,
you
or
being
I
as a
do
follower
follow.
anyway? No, I can't see you. I just can't see you sitting at breakfast with Twitter. Can't see that.
Well, I have because of this.
Yeah.
So I have been doing that.
She's been doing it
I
for
have,
a
and I
while.
did, but I'm very much do it and then not, and then I'll get back to
Yes.
my worrying about my house.
Okay, so don't
Martins
follow
and-
too many people in the first place, so that you
I
don't
don't
need to
follow.
unfollow.
I tell you who I follow. The man that did the Christmas lecture here, somebody called Hugh Montgomery, who's a polymath scientist and an intensive care consultant who I work with on a project at UCLH. And he is just incredible. His main concern is climate change. So I generally look at him every day.
Which actually
He's
the
only man.
American neuroscientists think that our addiction to digital devices should be taken as seriously as global change.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's changing the climate intentionally, but that's a whole other subject. Leslie, who are you unfollowing at the moment?
Yeah, so obviously, I never follow Kardashians, but I don't, I do follow humor, because I need to laugh. I follow artists and journalists and writers, and my new obsession is Periscope. Have you guys been using that?
Yeah.
And I think, I do like what's going on in social media. I love Instagram, so I want to start playing with that one and see.
Soon to be seen, cameras that go up into orifice so we can really look at each other's organs throughout the day as well. Steph, who are you unfollowing?
I think for me, I tend to, I will unfollow anyone that is just devoid of content. I mean, particularly in the health industry, I think you'll find a lot of people who are not so much health gurus, they're just amazing at taking images and, selling this, fake lifestyle. And, I've been victim to that. I find myself sometimes, I love Whole Foods, but I wander into it just because for some reason it just makes me feel healthier. I don't actually buy anything, and I just think, gosh, what is going on
Then
here?
you buy the
This is
Fruit Loops
ridiculous.
and the wine, don't you? But it's organic and diet biodynamic, so it's fine. Elaine, who are you?
Unfollowing.
Yes.
I'm not on
And we've
social.
got, you don't want to answer that.
No. I'm not.
And we've got about 30 seconds
I'm
for
not
your
on
answer before I
social-
take another question. So we've got time for one more question in a moment.
Okay, quick. I'm not on social media at all.
see,
I don't
there
even
we
own a
go.
television.
I'm quite jealous of that.
I'm terrible.
Yes.
No, I'm not on. I've never been on social media at all.
Do you advise your clients to take a break from it?
No, it's their choice. It's not my place to tell people what to do, but I do advise some sort of digital detox, particularly before bedtime.
So you don't allow scrolling in a session? No.
It's not that I don't allow it, I think. It's not, people probably
in the
tend
room.
to choose
Yeah.
not to. No,
Yeah.
but I'm sorry, I'm not on social
Fabulous.
media at
Okay,
all.
there we go. Gosh, we've got some anti-social media people here as well. I love it. So we've got one more question. I'm going to close my eyes and just see where my... We should go over to this side of the room. Is there anyone over here that wants to ask a question? Where's my... Oh, I'm pointing to the exit. I look like a Mystic Meg. This lady here, you're sitting near the point. What's your name?
My name's Renee Hundekamp. I'm both a GP and I own an aesthetics clinic, so I kind of have a double view of this. And I'm really interested in this healthiness from within in terms of exercise and fitness and being strong that way. And I'm worried that we've got to the point now where obviously we can't say skinny, but we can't say fat either, because it's all become a taboo. And the problem with that is in GP, for example, is I'm seeing people every day who are really unhealthy because they're overweight or underweight. And I think we've lost the ability to exercise, whether that's a hula hoop in the garden or a 20-mile run. And when I was at school, which was 35 years ago, I did every single sport that there was because it was cool to be in the sports teams. It was cool to be in the swimming team, the trampolining team, the athletics. And now it's not cool because you can't be seen with your hair out of place. And I've had daughters and I've had sons, and I've watched my daughter avoid sport like the plague because she's got her period. Can you write me a note? But it's not that. It's because she doesn't want to mess up her hair.
Well, I think this Girl Can has been incredibly powerful in getting girls back into playing sport because of the feeling sport gives you.
But
so your question, just to really, the nutshell...
How do we encourage our children, because that's where it needs to start, that it's cool to be sweaty and have your hair in a band and enjoy swimming and having the toast afterwards with your mates, because they don't anymore. It's not cool.
Yeah.
They're
so,
too into themselves.
So Leslie, journalist and mother of two daughters at that...
I completely agree with you, and I think actually part of the problem, particularly in state schools, is that sport is now no longer seen as a part of their education. So, you know, when I was at school, we had a thing called a PE teacher.
Yes.
Now there's just a teacher who vaguely does PE with kids. And we were all, I was terrible at sport, but I was on all the teams because you had to find your place. And I think for girls in particular, sport is a really good way of making sure that physical confidence is not just about their appearance. And I think that's a much bigger campaign about the education system in this country, which is not promoting sport as an essential part of your education. It's seen as a bit of a luxury and a bit of an add-on now. And I don't know if that's to do with budgets, and now that, you know, when I was growing up, even in state schools, you always had a sports field, you had a football pitch and, you know, netball courts, which we all took part in, but you don't really get, that's a luxury in a state school now. And I think we spoke about that, and it's I think it's fairly fundamental.
I think also, and this bridges what you were saying, so thanks for that really good question, because it sort of lassos everything what we're saying in a real level, is also team sports. If you look at a netball team, you've got your and I'm going to say them, because I mean, you know, a lot of people call me skinny all the time, think that's fine to keep calling me skinny, but you've got your tall, skinny goalkeeper, you've got your little short squat wing attack or wing defence. You've got your centre who's this all-rounder, sort of, you know, bringing the team together. So team sports, especially for females, needs a lot more push and a lot more proactivity, which I think is beginning to unravel. I think the sports industry are finally catching on that women are actually a very good target for their industry. And we've had fantastic success at national level with rugby, football, hockey last week. We're talking about, you know, Beijing. You know, women can, and women are, and women do. So let's talk more and focus on sport. And I think Nurse Claudette, who we will mention again, you know, her slamming the breakfast tray down and getting it a bit real and saying, come on, you know, you've got other reasons to be happy. Telling somebody that's overweight is probably the kindest thing you can do, really, because let's not be too PC about it. Let's get over some of this so that people can maybe get into sport to lose weight or get into sport to put on weight, whatever that may be, because that person has got many attributes, and when you're in a team or you're playing sport, really how you look falls down the wayside. Leslie, one more point, and then I'm just going to invite in my last
what I found
guest.
with my personal peer group, my friends, is that I can't tell my son, this is a good idea, he won't listen to me. But I have a friend who can do that. And I have a friend who has a kid his age that can do that. So we actually take turns mentoring and finding mentors for our kids that say, hey, you know what? I try walking or running. So we have this little network of parents that's actually been working really nicely. What's that? I know, it's so true. But we do it through text. Hey, can you give my son a call today?
Yes, yeah, wonderful. I love
he's
that.
sleeping
I love
in
that.
too long.
Well, I think that really brings on the last. It's a really good point to bring on our last guest, because we talk about positive mentors and people that can make a real difference. I'd like to bring on Denise Hatton. Denise is the CEO of the YMCA England, who their tagline is a world of good. And you are in front of many, many young people on a regular basis. So thank you so much for being with us today, because it's amazing. It gives such backbone. You've got a few words to say, haven't you, about the campaign?
Only a few, apparently, so I'll try and keep it short. But it's actually really hard after hearing such an inspirational conversation from a panel of inspirational women. So thank you, Suzanne, and the panel. So I think a round of applause. You've been amazing. But I'd also like to thank you as an audience, particularly those people who've been brave and put their hands up. It's not always easy to have this conversation, but what I'd say from today is, please go away and be body confident. If you raised your hand and haven't had the opportunity to have that conversation, go onto the Be Real website and start that conversation with us as a movement. I'd like you to go away now and make change in your communities. If you can be body confident, you can help other people do that. The YMCA became involved in Be Real because we work with around 600,000 young people a year. A lot of those young people are very vulnerable. What we've found, if you look at the statistics, is 2/3 of the girls we work with have body confidence issues. That means they are not achieving. So why should we make change? Why should we have these conversations? It's because we're stopping people achieving their full potential. We're stopping people doing what these women have done. So, but it's the same for boys. And I know we've got a predominantly female audience, often with body image issues. It's women we talk about far more than men. But, you know, with having sons, equally, 1/3 of the young men that we deal with are on diets or are taking supplements to change how their body looks at 14. That's frightening. So please, please go away today and make a difference. Continue the conversations with your family. Think about how you speak with your children. If you are parents and you're still at schools, education absolutely is the way forward. Try and help your school to look at a body image program. It needn't be anything huge. It's just maybe some training about how we talk to children, how children talk to each other. But please, please do go away and make a difference. But for today, what we would like to do is to definitely say thank you. bareMinerals has organised an amazing event. They would like to say thank you to our panellists, so I think we have a gift. Ooh. Yes? Ooh.
Ooh, really? While the exciting gifts are being over, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for closing the conversation, because it was so important you were here, so thank you again. Madeline, Shaw, a quick round thank you. Oh, goodness me. Sorry. Oh, lovely. Thank you, of course. Yeah, sure. Yep. Yes. Have you got one final point you wanted to say?
Yes, if I can just also say that bareMinerals have also got a small act of kindness, I understand, for you. So there will be a goodie bag as you leave, and also Madeline's Savas juice. Savse juice.
Thank you.
So there's some samples
Beautiful.
of that
Thank you so
take
much.
away with you as well. But I'd also like to thank bareMinerals. As one of the founding partners, it's been amazing to see people coming on board. But what I'd like to say is bareMinerals was there first. So along with our founding partner, who's also in the care industry, their mission meant it's there already. They came before anyone else. So thank you for the event today. And yeah, please go away and make a difference.
Thank you, Denise, so much. And can I just thank my panellists, Madeline Shaw, Leslie Thomas, Claire Hart, Leslie Blodgett, Steph Reed, Elaine Slater, and I'm Suzanne Duffett. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you to you. Thank you.